Okay, I think we're ready. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Ellen Perillis-Weiler, and I am chair of the Council of Lafayette Women. We have had a spectacular 2 weeks of speakers, panelists, moderators, kicked off with the trivia contest and cocktails on March 12th, and now ending with some of Lafayette's extraordinary gems. I want to thank everybody who has participated. I also would especially like to thank the members of the Council of Lafayette Women for all of the hard work they did in getting this conference off the ground. I'd like to thank our conference chair, in particular, my dear friend, Renee Schneck-Tesoro, class of '82, who is just an amazing behind the scenes person and is, I think, a really great balance for my personality. I think it was great. I'd also like to thank Rachel Nelson-Moeller, class of '88, who got everything done. And I want to tell everybody that we look good. We were paddling furiously underwater, but above water, we look like synchronized swimmers. So I want to thank her. I'd also like to thank the staff of the alumni and development offices for being the tech people and helping us with our practice calls for our panels. They were wonderful. They stepped up to the plate. They worked beyond their usual hours, and for that we are grateful. One other thank you is our keynote speaker, Melissa Schusterman, class of '89, who kicked off our conference with a wonderful story about how she ran for political office and felt the need for change, and she was a catalyst for change. Very inspirational for young and old alike, and also very inspirational for women. I'd like to now introduce President Alison Byerly, just give you a little background. Alison is the 17th president of Lafayette College. She spent 8 years as the provost and executive vice president of Middlebury College in Vermont. One of the hallmarks of Alison's tenure here at Lafayette has been the Affordability and Distinction Through Growth program, which has increased financial aid by 31% and reduced student debt by 8.6%. We have stronger classes, more diverse classes because of Alison's efforts, and for this I applaud her. Additionally, she is leaving in June. I won't get into like how we're not happy about that. And she is going on to, I'm not going to say bigger and better things, I'm going to say other endeavors as a visiting scholar at the University of Pennsylvania in English. And we wish her the best in the endeavor. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce President Alison Byerly. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you very much, Ellen. And, you know, I'm tempted to compliment Ellen on her leopard clothing. And that reminds me that one of the important contributions that Ellen has made to my leadership as president is she took me shopping once a couple of years ago to one of her favorite clothing stores. She felt I needed more color in my wardrobe. And so we spent a lovely afternoon shopping and picking up the pace a little bit with some of the patterns and some of the colors. So that was one of the many ways in which I have felt supported by Ellen as well as by many others during my time at Lafayette. You know, it's a great honor to bring this conference to a close with a few remarks of my own. The Council of Lafayette Women has been an enormously impactful group during my time at Lafayette. You know, the fact that these conference gatherings have drawn so many women from across the college, across many years of alumni, faculty and staff participation. There have been years in which there were many student participants. It really has been a wonderful kind of bonding moment for the whole community on many, many occasions. And they have always been dynamic gatherings with enormous, you know, substance and intellectual content, as well as just a lot of fun. And so, you know, I know we all wish that we were gathered in person, as we have been in the past, and as we know that will be in the future. But on this occasion, it's really nice that so many of you have participated in the various sessions that have taken place over the last 2 weeks. I want to join Ellen in thanking the conference organizers and as well as those who've participated in the sessions. We've had some wonderful events, wonderful talks. They've been well attended, very much enjoyed, and it's great that so many members of the community are willing to share their talents and energy. It's a great showcase of the power of women at Lafayette, and so I thank all of you for your participation. For me, one of the things that I have always valued about this particular group, not only all of the women who've attended the Council of Lafayette Women, the First Women of Lafayette, and in fact, many of just the women alumni, staff, faculty, and students here, is that I have felt as the first female president of Lafayette, a special sense of support from this community that has meant a lot to me. There's a sense of fellowship among this group, or perhaps I should say a sense of sisterhood among this group that I felt at our very first conference, and a sense of enjoyment of the sense of kind of pioneership that women have felt at Lafayette for a long time, and that I certainly felt as the first female president of Lafayette. I've been very touched by the number of people on this call and across the community, the number of women who've sent me lovely emails talking about what my presidency has meant to them as women, and a number of female students and a lot of junior faculty women have also said, lovely things about having a female president as a model of leadership being important to them. And so I feel very touched and honored that some have felt that way. One of the things I remember thinking about when I first came to Lafayette was the way in which Lafayette's capacity for change and its willingness to kind of adapt to the changing times, would be important to its success, both during my tenure as president and in the future. And few things are more representative of that than the way in which Lafayette adapted to coeducation 50 years ago. Those who were part of that, will say that it was not an entirely smooth process. No one would say that everything was perfect. But when I compare Lafayette's experience to that of other colleges whose histories I know, other colleges that went co-ed in the 70s, many of those institutions experienced significant blowback, disruption, and angst that really marked generations of alumni in a kind of point of conflict over the presence of women in what had been previously an entirely male student body. And I've always been struck in my interactions with Lafayette alumni by the fact that that is not what I have experienced in conversations with male or female Lafayette alumni. The men, by and large, if they didn't welcome coeducation the day that it happened, they could see within a year or two that it was an enormous strength of the college. Most of the male alumni that I talked to say it was clearly a good thing to have all of these, smart women added to the student body, and it strengthened the college. I think everyone viewed that as entirely positive. And so I think it shows that Lafayette has always had an enormous capacity to change and adapt. And I think that that's been true in what we have seen in our experience together as a community over the last year as we've coped with the unique challenges of COVID. This has been a time when in all of your own personal lives, and certainly in my time as leader of the institution, this year has just been one left turn after another. Every time you think you know where you're going, you have to turn the car in the opposite direction. It just has been, beyond chaotic for all of us. And yet the community has kept up. The community has kept strong. People have done what they needed to do to make things work, and have done so with a good spirit and a strong sense of community. And I really give the college enormous credit for being the kind of dynamic, adaptable institution that it is, and recognizing that, we're still Lafayette, even if students are taking classes remotely for a while. We're still Lafayette, even if we can't gather in person on campus. And I think that's enormously to the credit of the college, and shows that the college has an enormously strong future ahead of it. I feel very confident about the college as I prepare to hand over the keys to a new president. I do think that the college is in very strong shape and very well positioned for the future, because we have shown a real resilience and a real adaptability that I think is important. One of the things that I also think about as I ponder sort of the role of coeducation at Lafayette is the way in which it also paved the way for many of the conversations that we've had over the last few years, and that have intensified now, about the meaning of diversity, equity, and inclusion on this campus. I think we all recognize that diversity is really a first step. Building a diverse community is the first step towards a longer trajectory that involves making everyone feel included, making everyone feel welcome, making everyone feel a sense of belonging, and recognizing that that doesn't come easily, and that there's a certain amount of work that comes with that, just as the country as a whole is recognizing that there are a lot of inequities and a lot of issues of racial injustice that need to be confronted. We've been confronting these things as a community on campus and off this year as well, and I think that we recognize that all of those issues, whether it's racial equity, whether it's gender equity, and the issues surrounding concerns that female students have raised about sexual assault, sexual misconduct, how the college handles all of those issues. All of those are ongoing projects of strengthening the college and constantly being willing to look hard at ourselves, criticize ourselves when necessary, and say, what can we do to make the institution stronger? And so just as Lafayette was capable back in the 60s of saying, what would make this college stronger? It's a radical leap, but admitting women would be the thing that would do it. I feel proud that in my time here, we have recognized that assembling a more diverse student body is one thing that strengthens the college. working harder to ensure that that student body feels welcomed, that they feel part of the larger community, that they continue to feel the same sense of pride and joy and excitement about Lafayette that all of the alumni on this call have felt. That I think is the continuing project, and one that we're all dedicated to. And so I know everyone on this call, wants to support that effort and support that work. So I guess I would conclude by saying that, as I think back on my time at the college and the support that I have felt from so many people on this call and across the community, I just think that that is the thing that gives me the most confidence about the strong future of Lafayette in the coming years. This sense of community is the thing that we recognize is at the core of the education we offer. Students missed it when they weren't gathered together. We all missed it when we weren't in the classroom with our students, or when we weren't working together in the office, or when we weren't gathering at reunion in the way that we had hoped. All of those things left a bit of a hole for each of us that I think will be filled when we're able to gather again in person. And to me, that just reinforces the incredible value of the kind of education that we offer, one that is really based on a strong sense of collegiality, of community, and of a sense of belonging that I think we will continue to work to strengthen. So I want to thank everyone here for your support over my time here, and thank you for inviting me to help close this conference with a few remarks of my own. I'm looking forward to the presentation to come, and recognize that one of the things that I've had the privilege of doing as president is getting to know a little bit about some of the spaces and background and stories that not everyone knows. So even I will, I'm sure, learn something from the presentation that we're about to enjoy. So thank you very much, Ellen, for that lovely introduction and for giving me a chance to speak today.
Thank you, Allison. I have one question to pose to you. What will you miss most about Lafayette?
Oh, that is too tough. That is too tough. Whether it is, going to a football game on a, crisp fall day. I think actually, walking across the quad and saying hello to students, the moments that I feel most proud of being president of Lafayette are when I'm just walking across the quad in the morning and saying hello to people and looking around, and there are students and faculty going to class, and, kind of life is bustling around, and you say, this is a fantastic place, and I am privileged to be president of it. So I would say that nothing will be more missed by me than just the experience of being in the center of that community.
Thank you. And now for those of you who were wise enough to prepare your cocktail, I'd like to propose a toast to President Byerly. Thank you for your leadership and vision for our alma mater. You have made our patch of earth on College Hill a place that students aspire to come to, a haven for engaged and enthusiastic faculty, and a warm, enveloping hug for alumni to return to. You have checked all of the boxes that for what a college president should accomplish, and for this, we are grateful for your service and commitment. So here's to Allison.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Many thanks. Cheers.
And now I'd like to turn the program over to my esteemed colleague and friend, Renee Schneck-Tesoro, who is going to take the rest of. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Ellen, and thank you, President Byerly, for your extraordinary service to the Lafayette community. Next, we have a special treat for you. We welcome you to join Mary Wilford Hunt, Senior Associate Director of Corporate Foundation and Government Relations, on a virtual journey across campus to explore a few seldom seen treasures. During the presentation, feel free to submit questions through the Zoom chat function. When the presentation concludes, our residents experts will be happy to answer your questions. Now, sit back and enjoy.
Welcome to our presentation of Extraordinary Gems at Lafayette College. My name is Mary Wilford Hunt, and it's my pleasure to share images of spaces and artifacts from our campus that are seldom seen, and to share insights from experts across our Lafayette community. Let's begin with a tour of Chateau Chauvignac, a gem located at the edge of campus. Michiko Okaya and Diane Shaw will tell you more.
I'm Diane Shaw, Director of Special Collections and College Archives Emerita.
And I'm Michiko Okaya, Director of Art Galleries and Collections Curator Emerita.
High atop Paxenosa Ridge, north of the Lafayette campus, stands an extraordinary home, the Chateau, built by Alan P. Kirby, class of 1915. In 1932 as a personal retreat for Lafayette football weekends, Board of Trustee meetings, and reunions of classmates, friends, and family. Kirby had visited the Marquis de Lafayette's birthplace in central France and instructed his architect, Donald Innes of Wilkes-Barre, to use the Norman French style he had been captivated by there. The house was completed in 8 months and given the name of Lafayette's birthplace, Chateau Chavignac. One unusual use of the house was as a place to sequester the Lafayette football team on the Friday evening before games on a second floor dormitory, on the second floor in dormitory style quarters. The house was endowed and given to the college in 1983 by the F.M. Kirby Foundation. The house today remains much as it was when it was built, a treasure trove of original furnishings and artwork.
Alan Kirby's interest in General Lafayette and the European history is evident throughout the Chateau's selection of British, European, and American paintings, prints, and decorative arts. Of special note are portraits of Lafayette by French painters, Joseph D. Court, seen here, and Ari Scheffer. The bust-length version of the full-length standing portrait given by the artist to the nation in 1824. The painting now hangs in the house chamber. The Scheffer painting is to the left. Joseph Duplessis's portrait of Benjamin Franklin was extremely popular, and he painted 8 versions to satisfy demand. An engraving of the portrait was used on the $100 bill from 1929 to 1996. And on the east and west sides of the Great Hall are 2 fabulous 18th century Flemish and French Baroque tapestries that depict country people dancing and carousing.
One of the little-known delights at Lafayette is the Kirby Room in Van Wickle Hall. Behind the iron gates and heavy drapes on the west end of the former Van Wickle Library Reading Room, today a geology computer lab, is the evocative recreation of Fred Morgan Kirby's library from his Wilkes-Barre home. You will know F.M. Kirby as the noted business entrepreneur and patriarch of the Kirby family, which has played such an important role in the development of Lafayette College. The room was a gift of Fred Morgan's son, Alan P. Kirby, class of 1915, and was added during a major Van Wickle Library expansion in 1938. The Kirby Room includes the fine walnut paneling, ceiling, fireplace, stained glass window, furnishings, artworks, and books from the original room, designed for Kirby in 1906 by the noted interior decorator Theodore Hofstadter of New York City. The book collection includes handsomely bound sets of literary works, as well as first editions. In addition to the portrait of Fred Morgan Kirby by Frank Salisbury, 2 lovely paintings grace the room: Daniel Ridgway Knight's Peasant Girl with Flowers and Marie de Terrell's Cattle in Landscape. The room was originally open for students as a special reading and browsing room, but at some point it was closed to use and remains so today.
Hello, my name is Drew Germanowski. I'm a geology professor at Lafayette College, and I'm going to take you to the basement of Van Wickle Hall to show you our flume. A flume is basically a big sandbox, a very expensive sandbox that is situated on a series of jacks, so we can automatically change the slope of the flume. Our flume is 2 meters wide, a little over 6 feet, and almost 30 feet long. We can change the flow by changing the rate at which we're pumping water through the flume, and we in fact feed sediment to this. So we use the flume to model rivers and to model river behavior. We can run it almost wall to wall, or actually wall to wall with flow, and study sediment transport at high rates. We can study bed forms such as ripples and dunes and how they relate to flow regime and flow energy. We also can run the flume at lower flows and model a river flowing through a valley. So one of the slides near the end shows a meandering river channel, and you can see bars moving through the river. And there are some little plastic dinosaurs and trees on the floodplain. So we can increase the flow rate and generate a flood and bury the dinosaurs and trees to show students how fossils are formed in the sedimentary record. And we use this flume in all levels of our curriculum. We've also used the flume for student faculty research. Students can see river dynamics in Van Wickle Hall, and then we can go in the field and show them the same thing in the Bushkill Creek. Once they know what they're looking for, it's easier to understand features that they see in the field.
The Kirby Art Study Center brings together for the first time artwork that had previously been stored in difficult to access areas on campus. A small portion of the collection was displayed in several buildings, including Kirby Hall of Civil Rights, the President's House, and the Chateau, but the remainder was unavailable for study and research by students, faculty, and visiting scholars. It was definitely a hidden treasure. Dedicated in 2019, the Kirby Art Study Center was established by Alan P. Kirby Jr. in honor of his father, Alan P. Kirby Sr., who assembled the Kirby collection of historical paintings and the Chateau collection. The Kirby Art Study Center is located in the original Black Box Theater at the Williams Center, located off the main lobby, adjacent to the art history lecture room, art gallery, and main stage. It is the perfect location for the study center. Renovations began in 2017. The state-of-the-art, secure, climate-controlled storage includes mobile shelving to house a growing collection of prints and photographs, and floor-to-ceiling height rolling painting racks. A glass wall separates the study room from the storage area, enabling students and visitors to view an ever-changing selection of paintings on the racks. The richly grained tables are made from boards milled from the English elm that stood on the quad near Hogue Hall until 2012. The college's collection of American and European paintings, photographs, prints, drawings, and sculpture, Native American pottery and baskets, ancient artifacts, and works from the Experimental Printmaking Institute are now readily and easily available for study.
If you had visited Lafayette College in the early 1960s, you would have been able to see no less than 4 Tiffany windows installed in almost all of their original locations. The 1898 Alcuin and Charlemagne window in Pardee Hall, the 1899 Sir Philip Sidney in Van Wickle Library, and the 1912 Ascension of Christ, and the 1916 St. Paul Preaching on Mars Hill in Colton Chapel. If you had returned to campus 40 years later, not one of these windows could be seen. The 2 chapel windows were destroyed in the 1965 fire that gutted Colton, and the 2 other windows were in storage. The good news is that the 2 surviving windows are both spectacular examples from the heyday of the Tiffany Studios, founded by artist Louis Comfort Tiffany, whose special Lafayette College connection was his 1886 marriage to Louise Wakeman Knox, the daughter of the Lafayette College president, James Hall Mason Knox.
The Sir Philip Sidney and Alcuin and Charlemagne windows, now installed in Skillman Library, were designed by Frederick Wilson, Tiffany's most talented and prolific designer. Masterful use of color, an extraordinary range of textured and edged glass, and sensitive use of vitreous paint and color enamel on faces and hands are hallmarks of Wilson's artistry.
My name is Pam Murray, and I work in Skillman Libraries, Special Collections and College Archives, home to Lafayette's sword. I would like to begin with a brief description of the sword, followed by some historical information of the sword, beginning with the man himself, Lafayette, and how the sword came to the college. Lafayette's sword is a three-edged rapier with a blade of finely tempered steel and hilt of gold surmounted by a pommel, which is the rounded knob at the end of the sword, and it's shaped like a liberty cap, a classical symbol of freedom from oppression that became a major symbol for the French Revolution. The sword has a blade of about 31.5 inches long and a hilt of 6 1/8 inches. The sword shows considerable wear as a portion of its inscriptions are rubbed out. One inscription indicates the blade was manufactured at Solingen, a place in Germany noted for its fine cutlery. The other inscription indicates it was purchased at the sign of the Grand Monarch in Paris. One of Lafayette's most prized artifacts is the sword carried by the Marquis de Lafayette during the first years of the French Revolution. Lafayette played an important role in the early days of the Revolution, serving as a commandant for the newly formed militia, the Parisian National Guard. As a constitutional monarchist, the radical Jacobins targeted Lafayette in August of 1792. Hoping to evade the guillotine by escaping to America via Holland, Lafayette crossed the northern border of France into Belgium and was immediately captured by soldiers of the coalition of the Habsburg, Austrians, and Prussians that had declared war on France. Lafayette became a political prisoner for the next 5 years, and all of his possessions were taken from him, including this sword. When Lafayette was freed by Napoleon's treaty with Austria in 1797, all of his possessions were returned to him except for this sword, which his captors kept as a trophy of war. The sword descended in a Prussian officer's family until 1932, when a representative of the family, the Baroness Monica von Miltitz, presented the sword to Lafayette College during its centennial year with the words, "I, a German, give to this American college the sword of a distinguished Frenchman, with the fervent wish that these three great peoples may be drawn together in friendly understanding." This revolutionary sword is a tangible reminder of Lafayette's service and sacrifice in the great cause of freedom that led our founders to name the college in his honor.
Thank you for taking this amazing journey across campus with us. And a special thank you to Michiko Okaya, Diane Shaw, Drew Germanowski, and Pam Murray. We hope we revealed just some of the many extraordinary gems at Lafayette. So thank you all for including questions in the chat room, and I also received a few other questions. So I will attempt to throw them to our appropriate expert in that area. First, I'd like you all to note that Pam Murray joins us from the Special Collections area at Skillman Library and has Lafayette's sword with her. So a question that we received is, Pam, is the sword on permanent display in Skillman Library?
No, it's not, due to preservation and security reasons, but we do bring the sword out at various occasions during the academic year for things like class reunions, parents' weekend, class visits, events at the library, but we do welcome visitors into special collections to see the sword. But I would say that if you were planning to come visit us, it might be a good idea to give us a call or make an appointment.
Thank you, Pam. Regarding the Tiffany windows, yeah, the images are exquisite. And I have a question. How can I see more images of the windows? Perhaps Mitch, you can take that one?
Sure, happy to. The 2 minutes that Diane and I had to talk about the Tiffany windows barely begins to cover the history of the windows, the beauty of the windows, what makes them special. In 2016, Diane and I had organized a series of exhibitions and programs related to the Tiffany windows and Tiffany the Man. And we produced an 84-page lavishly illustrated catalog about Tiffany at Lafayette, which includes essays by Tiffany scholars and lots of photographs of the different kinds of glass that was used, both illuminated and reflected. And you get just, sort of the start of a sense of how beautiful these windows are, how gorgeous the glass is, and really what makes the windows very special. So I will put in the chat room where you can get a copy of the catalog, but if you go to galleries.lafayette.edu, which is the art gallery website, there's a link to the gallery shop and it'll take you to where the catalogs are available. But I'll see if I can put it into the chat.
Thank you, Mitch. I have another Tiffany window question, perhaps for Diane. Can you tell us more about the marriage of Tiffany to the daughter of the president of Lafayette?
Happy to, and happy to be here today. Yes, Louise Knox, the daughter of the Lafayette president, was Tiffany's second wife. He had lost his first wife to illness at a young age, and he was introduced to Lou. It was Louis and Lou. He was introduced to Lou by mutual friends. I brought it with me. And one of the wonderful things that the two of them did during their courtship was to take a canal boat trip. They got a barge and decked it out with Oriental rugs, Japanese lanterns, and a very convivial group of friends. And they actually went all the way from Bristol up to Jim Thorpe on this barge, but they stopped in Easton to visit Lou's dad. And it has been speculated that perhaps Tiffany asked for her hand at that point. We don't have any proof of that. But the really wonderful thing about that trip was that they were both amateur photographers, and there's some 600 glass plate negatives of that trip, which is just a remarkable record of a pretty interesting moment. So, yeah. So that they were married a long time. They had 4 children, but Lou died also fairly young.
Thanks, Diane. Fascinating stuff. We have a couple of questions about the flume. So Drew, is the flume in Van Wickle located in an area so it can be viewed by visitors? And about how many gallons of water does the flume hold?
Oh, yeah, it's in the basement, and during the academic year, the door is usually open. Someone can let a visitor look at it any time, but usually the door is open. I have no idea how many gallons of water, but I could do this. Wait, that flume is 6 by 30, is 180 square feet. Let me get, I got lucky my phone's getting charged right here. So 180 square feet, it's about 4 feet of water in the sump. Wait, let me back up here. I have a mistake. 180 times 4. And okay, so there's 720 cubic feet, and there's, I think, 7.48 gallons in the cubic foot. So times 7.48, about 5,300 gallons of water in the sump under the flume. So the way it works, and then that water level is about 4 feet. We have the water just sits in the sump under the flume, and then we have a pump that pumps it to the head of the flume. So we certainly wouldn't pump all 5,000 gallons through the flume, or we would then start, well, we wouldn't burn the pump out because we get return. But so there's about 5,000 gallons there. We don't run that much though, by a long shot. But it is set up to raise a gate to get the majority of that water and hold it in that flume if we want really deep flow. So we could probably get at least 3,000 gallons of water in that flume.
That's great. Thank you, Drew. So there seems to be a lot of interest in touring Chateau Chavignac, and I highly recommend it. We do hold events up there periodically, and perhaps next year we should do a CLW event up there. Okay, so oh, thank you, Becky. Becky Rosenbauer is mentioning that there is also a huge Tiffany window on College Hill at the in the sanctuary of College Hill Presbyterian Church. I didn't know that. Are there any other questions? And we have a yes for a CLW event at the Chateau. I hope I'm not getting myself in trouble with Rachel. If we don't have any other questions, I just want to thank everybody for those insightful questions. And again, a heartfelt thanks to our experts. Again, Michiko Okaya, Diane Shaw, Drew Germanowski, and Pam Murray. I'd also like to give Paula Rossioli a shout out. It was Paula who first brought this idea to us. So thank you, Paula. And at this point, I would like to turn it back over to Renee to close us out.
Thank you for that unique insight into Lafayette's hidden treasures. You know, we've always said that one of the greatest assets of attending a small private institution like Lafayette are the relationships we form with our classmates and our professors. You know, these past 2 weeks have illuminated another very powerful asset, the bonds of sisterhood. A sisterhood that began 50 years ago with a group of young, fearless women on an all-male campus, a sisterhood that endures today. Our speakers and our participants spoke candidly about their career paths, their life lessons and journeys. They offered a breadth of knowledge, advice, and expertise from which we can all benefit. Let's continue these dialogues with the hope that the next 50 years brings even more opportunities for future generations of Lafayette women. Thank you all for sharing your time, your talents, and your powerful voices. And now perhaps the most fitting way to conclude this wonderful conference is with the playing of Lafayette's alma mater. Have a great night.
We'll gather by the twilight's glow in front of old Pardee. In all the world no other scene so fair, so dear to me. Oh Lafayette, to thee our voices raise, while loyal lips and loyal hearts unite to sing thy praise. We'll gather by the twilight's glow in front of old Pardee. In all the world no other scene so fair, so dear to me, and future years shall not erase these gems of memory rare, but oft will live the scene again, impressed so firmly there. Oh Lafayette, oh joyous college days, ere while these loyal hearts shall beat, we've loyal lips to by the twilight's glow, in front of old Pardee. In all the world no other scene so fair, so dear to me. We'll gather by the twilight's glow, in front of old Pardee. In all the world no other scene so fair, so dear to me.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. Thank you all for joining us.
Great to see everyone. Thanks for coming.